you're excused. 'Cause you're always late, overweight, and totally rude, honey.
Hello, welcome
Hello.
to the Creatively Unworthy Podcast.
Yay!
Woo.
I'm Christin,
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Larry Chambers. How are you guys?
and this is our 13th podcast.
Episode number 13. Oh, so many of these. Yeah.
And what is going to be our topic for the day?
Well, our topic for today is going to be the illusion of the conclusion, but it also broadly covers just illusions that are that artists live in. So that's what we're going to talk about.
All right,
It's very exciting.
let's get right to it.
Let's get right to it. Well, the illusion of the conclusion, I was just thinking about how we all have these illusions of what reality is. And, like if you're a conservative, you have an illusion about what things are. And if you're liberal, you have a conclusion about what things are. And it's usually the opposite of what, a conservative. And that doesn't just mean political, that just means conservative in your views. And everybody has, in terms of art, most people don't know, they don't understand the artist, they don't understand how, they think it's more of a hobby, and people don't realize that for an artist, they're going to die if they can't do their art. It's more than just a fun thing to do. And part of our goal in these podcasts is to support artists, support them in their everyday life, because as soon as the video goes out, you have to go back to your daily life. And if you're not creating something, or if you're feeling like you're unworthy of what you're doing, then you're going to be miserable. And we don't want people to be miserable. And the universities have done that for us. I mean, they've single-handedly tried to crush creativity out of people. And you could look at the whole education system. It was, first of all, if we go back to the turn of the century, the 1900s, our education system in America was set up to support the Industrial Revolution. And you can even look at it today, at the rows, people were supposed to, these were training grounds for young children to become industry workers. And you sit in rows. Even the bell is an industry bell. The bell rings to start the work. The bell rings for lunch. The bell rings for the end of the day. And so
It's kind of manipulative if you think about it.
Yeah. And you're supposed to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, you go and see the manager, or the manager in this case is the principal. So the art and that's just the way that the school system still is. And they probably should throw that out, because it doesn't work anymore. I mean, there is no more factories that you're learning jobs for. I mean, they're all over, in other countries, and
automated.
Everything's automated. And anybody that can do a job that is replicatable is very quickly, those jobs are being digitized, So the good thing about being creative is that you still keep your creative skills and your aspirations. You can't outsource creativity. It's one of the things that makes America so incredible, especially here where I live near Silicon Valley, is the creativity that comes out of here is unmatched in the world. Now, you can say, well, yeah, but what about Japan and China? No, they take our ideas and then they refine them and duplicate them and make them better, faster, quicker. And, they got tons of people, factories, to do that.
Yeah.
But it's you guys, it's Americans that come up with these, and we have. I mean, all I have to do is ask you a question, and I'm not being a racist in saying this, but when was the last invention that came out of China? I mean, earthquake type invention. Yeah, think about it, right?
Yeah.
I used to joke around and say, well, it was those little handcuffs, you have the little Chinese handcuffs. But, you have to go clear back to gunpowder. I mean, they're not creative in the sense like an attorney or a CPA. The worst thing to have is your CPA is creative. You'll end up going to jail. They're very, tremendously smart people. So I don't mean it, like that they're bad. I just mean in a lot of those cultures, you're punished for being too creative. It's called the tall poppy. Tall, and like in New Zealand, the tall poppy, they say don't be a tall poppy. That means the tall poppy is the first one to get cut. And almost every culture has those kinds of things. And you could also say that for the artist. If you get too creative and you get too out there, well, wait a minute, Larry. Wait, Kristen, settle down. Now, you need to get back to doing what, you're a little bit out there.
I completely agree. And I found the perfect cartoon that goes with what you just said. I found this last night. I texted it to you both. Maybe we can show it in the podcast later. It's our education system, and it's a guy at a desk talking to a snake, a tiger, a rhinoceros, a monkey, and a hedgehog, and an alligator. And he's like, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree.
Oh, perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
They're expecting every single animal to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just
maybe.
It's hilarious because
that's great.
Talk about limiting their potential.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
It's perfect. I thought it just went along perfectly. Like not everyone can climb a tree and not everyone should be taught the same.
Yeah.
Also, not everybody needs to climb a tree. I mean, like, if everybody's climbing a tree, then who's doing everything else? I mean,
who's on the ground? Who's in the water? Who's patrolling the things? Who's,
Well, we use the analogy of the hunter and the farmer a lot in our podcast, and that we say the hunter is the creative. He's out, finding the food, and the farmer is the one that's, making sure the checkbook's balanced, making sure there's, we got food.
They grow the same crop at the same time,
the same
every
thing
year,
over and over and over again. And I looked at the jobs that I had in my life, and I can remember. I remember when I had a ag job. I picked fruit, and I really wanted to kill myself. It was the most boring thing I'd ever done. You do from early in the morning till late in the afternoon, in the hot sun. Picking apricots. Yeah, and then I hauled hay and all these things. There's the funny thing.
Yeah.
And all of these things just, that were replicatable. That were non-creative. It just drove me to where, I couldn't take it. You've had those jobs.
Yeah, it's like working in a bank. Tell me, I worked at back in high school, I worked at a picture framing place in Lake Arrowhead, and I was surrounded by art, but I was bored out of my mind because I was in charge of framing the art, using math and rulers and not making art. I was having to do farmer work, and I was just like, oh my God, kill me now. I eventually got a different job next door at the old timey photography place. Yeah. And that was so fun. Oh my gosh, because I got to work with people and
you created art. These things with your mom for weddings, and you did the wedding.
Well, yeah.
So anything that you're doing that. And let's get to the point.
I also had I had a job I volunteered in high school to go work at a hospital, and I thought it'd be cool because you get to work at a mall or work at something else or work at a hospital. I'm like, a hospital? Oh my God, I'm going to go down to the morgue and
go down to the morgue.
Make it morbid. I was a goth.
Only a creative person thinks what you just said.
And I did get to work next to the morgue, but I worked in the freaking record rooms, and they had me I literally thought the same thing. I was going to kill myself if I have to do this every day for the rest of my life. This makes me want to do anything else. Mm-hmm. And I just had to take a file, somebody's file, and these are people, like real people. So if you mess anything up, if you get a number wrong, their file's gone, and they're like, the life's ruined. You're gonna inconvenience this person, so you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
But you need to look at their number, which is like 6 digits, copy it onto a file in stickers, and then put it away correctly into the right record spot in this huge thing in the basement.
Oh, in the basement? God.
Yeah. And it was cool because you get to go down to the basement. It's all spooky. And like, you know, the janitor's always like, hey, should this kid be down here? And you're like, yes, I should. I work here, technically, kind of. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid. And I'm doing something I hate, but I'm here.
Yeah, you were near excitement, but
it was so
you weren't doing anything exciting.
And I got switched later on, and I was basically a janitor where I just wipe off counters and refill stock upstairs. But I was so much happier because I was so bored. So bored. I was like, yeah, you want me to run that down to the lab? The lab, that was cool. Every time going in there, I'm like, here you go, scientist. I wish I could. This was a volunteer, but I know I'm like some kid, so.
You know, this may not relate to it, but maybe it is, but they have a syndrome that happens in Cambodia. If you go into Target and look on almost all of the clothes, it'll either say made in Vietnam or Cambodia now. So they've got these huge factories, and it'll be like 1,000, 2,000 women sitting at sewing machines, sewing the same thing over and over and over again. Well, they have this thing that'll happen where a woman will pass out and 300 of them will pass out.
Yeah.
Just like that. I mean, it's like one, it'll go boom, 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 boom. And they still haven't figured out what it is. And I think they pass out from a boredom, you know, and then what happens is that it's almost contagious. The boredom is contagious, you know.
It's like infected the whole crowd of people. Everybody wants
it's like a virus. It's kind of
like a sweatshop too. It sounds like
sweatshop virus. Yeah, it'd be really hot in there. I mean, I've gone out.
It sounds horrible.
Oh, it's terrible. They're terrible. You know, it's like actually in Cambodia, there are bad guys that go out there and they recruit these young girls out of these sweatshops to be young prostitutes, because anything's better than working in those shops, and they have no problem getting, you know, new recruits, I guess, you know.
Oh my God.
That's one of the problems that they have in the sex trade, is that these guys prey on these, you know, these young people that come out of the province, and then they go work, you know, making about $200 a month working all day long in the sweatshop. I think they just had a raise. The government gave them a raise to, I think it's $300 a month, but it's terrible, you know.
That's not anything though. $300 a month to live on.
They went from one sweatshop to another.
Yeah. And
in a grosser way to speak.
Sorry, that was gross.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean. It's like
I mean they did. You're not wrong.
So here's
the image that.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Well, I'm gonna so what we're talking about is the illusion of the conclusion. What I mean is, so we just talked about the real world, the reality. You working in a place that you hated, and I did, Christin did. So we've all done that. How do we buy time? Because if you buy time, you're making your art better. Yes, Christin, what?
I think I can answer this.
Yeah.
So when you said the illusion of the conclusion, in my mind, I instantly went to that there's an end.
Yes.
That's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
Because we don't know what happens after we die. I'm sorry, we don't. But I'm pretty sure it just doesn't end. So
well, I'm not talking about that.
Well, I know you're not, but also it also goes with the artist's journey. It's like, just because you finished one painting, that's not enough. Like it never ends. You'll never be done until you're dead, probably. Like as far as with this body, I can create these things, but
you are right. I am talking about death. I am talking about that, because what happens is somebody, you know, religion came along and invented this thing, because back when people everybody was at one time, everybody worked in a sweatshop. Everybody worked out in the field. Everybody harvested.
Yeah, life sucked for everybody unless you had $1 billion.
everybody's, was harvesting. They did some menial type jobs. And so in order to, keep people from not rebelling and killing the king and queen and taking over the castle,
they
we
put the
invented
fear of
religion.
God.
We invented this religion that, look, if you just mind, do your job, do everything right, not get in trouble, then when you die, then you'll go to heaven. So you're right. That is the illusion of that conclusion. And that permeates everything in our thinking. Everything we think has this conclusion, good or bad. We think, if I can just sell this screenplay, my life will be made. If I can just get this job as an actor. The funny thing is to watch a movie. There's a series that came out about 15 years ago. It was called Entourage. And I've been watching it on Netflix.
No.
It's hysterical. It's hysterical because, these guys think, that you could just see them trying to be creative, trying to, if they can get this movie done, then their life will be great. And it's never great. Nobody's great. They'll come across people that I know that were, or I don't know them personally, but people that were producers, say, when I was a kid, and now they're 80 and 90 years old. And guess what they're doing? They're trying to get a movie made. They're still trying, like they might have, a $30 million house. It doesn't matter. They're still driven. They still have, you got to get to this end goal of just finally getting, a movie in the can. And then what we're trying to preach is it's the journey, not the illusion of the ending. There is no illusion of the journey. The journey is real. So you better make the journey something that's going to be fun, entertaining, exciting, motivating, and, so you won't want to blow your brains out, at the end of it.
Yeah. So you're not sitting there like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life?
I was just on the phone with my cousin, and she was talking about her husband. His whole life has been about being a manager. Well, he's my age. He's 72 or 3 years old now, and he's immobile. He doesn't run. He doesn't exercise. He hates exercise. So he sits and watches television all day. Well, you can't get out of the chair.
That is not good for your brain.
Well, it's going to kill you. I mean,
yeah,
it's not good for anything. You've got the
it's
brain.
how you get Alzheimer's really fast.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's going to go downhill if he doesn't.
Tell him to start smoking and drinking too. That will help. That will, fast track him.
We're not supposed to.
If a shark stops swimming, it dies. If a shark stops swimming, it dies. If you stop moving, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, all the grandparents were just bedridden the whole time.
Yes.
Like you're telling your body to shut down by staying in bed. That's why I love seeing people in wheelchairs, like getting out and playing basketball.
Yeah.
In their wheelchairs, like they found a way to make it work. People with no legs have found, doctors that have these prosthetics that are incredible. So
they're so cool. I love seeing people with prosthetic legs. It's like, wow, you go.
They're not quitting.
Don't get stopped. Yeah.
Here's a problem that the space station has, and we want to go to Mars, and we want to go out and look at, the galaxy. Well, I just saw an interview of one of the astronauts that lived on a space station for 6 months. It has taken him a year. His muscles went atrophy, and he was exercising, but because of the weightlessness, the body is an amazing and highly efficient thing. It goes, I don't need I don't need the muscles in this arm, because I'm not there. It's weightless. So boom, it focuses on something else.
And mentally rationing your food.
Yeah. And this guy he was talking about how he used to be this like world-class athlete type, and he's spent a year just trying to get back to where he was before he left. And it's one of the big problems. They've got to exercise while they're in space.
That's why swimming, I think, is the best exercise all around for everyone. Those water, even if you're just bouncing with one of those water dinghy things.
Yeah.
The resistance in the water is going to be way easier on your joints than running.
It's fun and it's refreshing and I agree with you. It's the best exercise I think there is out of any of them.
The noodles, the swim noodles, and you're like, I want to get physical. in a group with like a bunch of people with awesome shower caps.
I'm going to grab this book.
Ladies dancing.
Synchronized swimming.
Talk amongst yourself. Keep going.
Talk amongst yourselves.
You can't stop us, Larry. We're gonna do it.
Talk.
We get quiet right afterwards. There's nothing to say. Yeah, no. Swimming is, oh my god. There's a pool. There's a pool down here that I don't know if Larry likes swimming, but there's a really good pool where he'll be living. Not
really.
There's one in the apartment complex, but there's one right off the freeway, and it's this huge. It's not huge. It's pretty big for a pool. It's like a water park kind of esque thing.
Cool.
Slides, and then it has like a lap pool, but it's just two pools side by side.
Yeah, that's right by the place you're gonna go look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we still recording?
We don't want to talk about the pool.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the book. This is one of the best books on the brain. And this guy, John Medina, wrote it. He's a professor of neurology at, I think, University of Washington.
Is he related to Funky? Funky Cole? Is he related to Funky Cole?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Medina, Funky Cole Medina. No? Sorry.
Oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
He has these 12 brain rules, and it's really amazing. Like he said, our brains were built from walking. 12 as a human race, you know, a million years ago, we averaged 12 miles a day. We were like herd animals, like Jurassic Park. And that's everybody, grandma, grandpa. Of course, most people didn't live to be about, the average age was 33, how long they lived. Yeah. But they moved 12 miles a day. And our brain evolved moving. So it makes sense that, you know, you've got to move. You got to keep moving. The more you move, your thinking skills improve. Everything improves when you exercise and move.
I also saw an article where we have the most endurance out of any animal. Like there's this hunting technique that's still done in Africa where you can't outrun a gazelle, but you can run it to exhaustion to death just by jogging after it. It can't keep up with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. No other animal can really do that, just humans. So we're made to move, you know. But everybody's always sitting in their chairs all day now, and not good.
But this
Our next podcast, we should do a walk around podcast.
Oh yeah.
Brain rules. Who wrote it again? Medina.
Yeah.
John Medina.
Yeah.
That's a good one to check out.
Yeah. I'll make a note of that too.
And by the way, he also says, and his stuff is all backed up with research, so it's not just somebody, you know, off the cuff, you know, saying whatever they want to say. His stuff is all backed up. And one of the things he said, what they found is you really don't have to exercise that much to really get a lot of benefit out of, you know, it's not like you've got to, I mean, if you're older, if you just go out and go for a walk and come back, you know, that's pretty good. Or sneezing will help you.
Dancing, anything. Sneezing. Dancing is my favorite. Dancing and swimming are my favorite. God, I hesitate to even mention this. It's so good though. No, I'm gonna save it.
Oh, no, you can't do that now. What is it?
Well, wait till Rebecca comes back.
Do it.
Is it sex?
Okay. I have a book idea that I've been slowly writing like over the last 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Accidental Exercise. And because on purpose exercise sounds like just gag me with a spoon, you know. Oh, let's go for a hike. Why? Are we going to a waterfall? Is there a goal? No, we're just going to go in the desert with no shade and hike. Boring. I want to work out on accident. So I came up with all these things, and the top one.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll do top 3 is dancing, reorganizing your furniture, like, you know, feng shuiing, and the ultimate accidental exercise is sex. So because that stimulates, you know, the serotonin levels, everything. That is the closest thing to dancing and swimming, or like playing volleyball while you're in the water, like, you know, some sort of accident, your brain is focused on something, it doesn't even realize it's working out.
Yeah.
And gardening is one. Having to try on a bunch of clothes, whether you realize it or not, is another one, especially if, you know, they're tight and got a lot of zipper, like
Having to walk up a flight of stairs or something.
Yeah, so many things you can do on accident that just add up throughout the day.
Sure.
You know, and for your arms, if you want to work out your arms, dishes, do the dishes. You know, rearrange your books. I have a whole
list of them
thing about it, but tricking
cool.
the brain, I just know it's a great idea, because who wants to, unless, you know, you've got the exercise bug and you hit the runner's high, and
you don't need all of that.
I've felt that in the past, but, you know,
here's a couple of the
I'm
rules.
busy, you know, so
yeah.
I want
a couple of the rules that he says that I think are worth noting. One is every brain is wired differently. No two people's brains store the same information the same way in the same place. So we've sort of talked a little bit about that, how, you know, creative people don't, or like, especially dyslexic people, like they'll have a hard time accessing information sometimes. It gets stored a different way. And if they feel stress, you know, I think we talked about it before, like the brain, we go into a flight or fight. Well, there's no, you know, if you're worried, if you're stressed out and your brain goes into fight or flight, well, there's no memory in that part of the brain. You know, that's not the neocortex. What you've got to do is you've got to be relaxed and to be able to recall information. So one of them was that. The other one, here's my favorite one. People don't pay attention to boring things. You know,
yeah.
The brain, you know, we talked about this before, like, you know, quick move, you know, we're highly visual animals, and, you know, being distracted can save your life, you know. So things that are boring, if you're an artist, you know, you're not going to learn. It's going to be hard to learn anything. Anyway, but he's got all these rules. They're common sense rules, but it's kind of a nice thing to reference. Anyway.
sounds like a great book.
Yeah.
Brain Rules by John Medina.
Yeah. So back to this
I'll link it too.
illusion of conclusions. So this is just really about
thank God there is no end.
Yeah.
How boring would life be if there was? After you've written one book, you were done for life.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's so boring.
And the secret to all of this stuff is to come awake, you know, be awake, not go to sleep. And what I mean by that is so many people that, like, when you're talking, sometimes you'll talk to somebody and they just, you know, they're not listening. I even play with this. I'll be talking to somebody about something and I'll deliberately throw something weird in there because I know they're not listening to me. What they're doing is they're waiting for them to talk. And that's a person who's asleep. All they're doing is regurgitating, you know, what's ever in their brain. So you're at some party and you're talking to somebody and, you know, they overtalk you, or they can't wait to try to spew what it is that they want to tell you. And, you know, you can play with those people. You can play around with those people by saying something really out there and then a few minutes later they go like, what the hell? What was that all about? Anyway.
Well, I've definitely come across that with almost everyone, including my own, you know, dad. I can definitely tell when he's not listening to what I'm saying. He wants to tell me about this thing. But that takes patience because they're only human, you know? Humans are only humans. We're only humans.
I do that too, just because, like.
What? What'd you say?
I do that too. Like, I don't know, like not define the internet, but there's so much stimulation. Like I'm always listening to a video and then playing a game and then like also reading something. And so then when I talk to people, sometimes it's like it I don't want to say people are boring, but sometimes it's like you find it hard to engage with somebody. So you kind of fade out halfway through. And
you guys have to be careful because you're going think about this. When I was your age, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have personal computers. We had none of that stuff. So this
When
is
you were
all from about
39?
Yeah, when I was 4. I mean, I can just go back 10, 15 years and we didn't have cell phones. That's really a relatively new phenomenon. Just as an example. So think about the apps that you didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Well, think about out into the future. Take your mind and go way out. If you're that distracted today, what in the hell is it going to be like 10, 50, 20, 30, 40 years from today?
Like the Matrix, where
It is the Matrix.
Wall things and everything is, you can click on anything in the world and change it. Like The Sims, but in real life, damn it. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be careful because, you can get overloaded. It's just back to this illusion that if you're doing everything, then you're going to be happy. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
The more choices you have, the less happier people are.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of illusion about the future. And one of the big ones is, remember, you've all seen, the in like Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise, he throws over here and they put the bad guy here and they'll go like that. They're doing this up on the wall. Well, what they found is, that's possible to do that for about 3 minutes. Hold your arms up and go like this for a few minutes. You ain't going to be able to do that.
That's one of the lifeguard tests. You have to hold your arms up while keeping yourself afloat for like 20 minutes.
I mean, me just
the
telling
people
you
in
this,
our future are really ripped. Their arms are always.
Their arms are in such great shape.
Yeah, I can already feel like put your arms down.
Dad, did you know I still sleep sometimes and wake up and my arms are straight up in the air?
That's
when me and Logan were little, and we shared a bed, I'd wake up and I'd look over and his arms would be up and my arms would be straight up.
What?
Like, what is that? And then my friend Katie spent the night the other night and she woke me up. She was like, Christin, what are you doing? I was like, what? And she's like, your arms were straight up in the air. I was like,
God, Christin.
You turned into a zombie in your sleep and you're all like,
oh.
What is that?
Zombie.
Maybe I'm working out while I'm sleeping, but I used to do it with Logan when we were little.
Like, what do they call it? Like sleepwalking, but like a form of it where your muscles move or
Logan was doing it too.
Wow.
Like, I think like we were, I don't know,
aliens
dying or being contacted by something, or some dead relative was trying to give us a hug. Who knows? But it's still happening, so I don't know what that's about. It's very strange. Like, and I can fall asleep with my arms straight up in the air for some reason. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
I don't know. As soon as you do that, I can't not stop picturing you with your arms straight up sleeping, going like.
When we were like 5.
Where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong?
Yeah, Larry, what did you feed her?
Sleep with your arms.
I don't think it had anything to do with what you did. I think
you live next to the nuclear power plant.
Something invisible that we don't understand. I don't know. Yeah. Who knows?
Okay.
Maybe we're getting our downloads at night, and so we're nanu. Mork, come in, Mork.
I read some weird article, and it's probably not true, but it was about how there's a experimental government technology that can beam something into your head, like an idea, like a word. And that was like, apparently it was like invented like 20 years ago, but they never did anything with it. But what if they did? What if they told you to put your arms up, huh? So like,
put your hands up. Yeah, we were like,
it's probably too out there.
Christin this isn't anything new. I mean, I've seen her do these really when she was really young, she's like 3 years old or 4 years old, and I took her to the beach, and I had her little cards, like you used to learn to count, and there would be a card and it had the number on, numbers on, and you hold it up and say, okay, what's this number? And she would say 3, 5, 6. So we're doing that. She's getting them all right. And then I noticed that I was holding them up like this, and so, okay, what's this one? She goes 3, and then I hold the next. And then I happened to look, and the backside of the car had no number on it. She was just.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you don't remember? I've told you the story.
Remember that. I remember you drawing something, and I guess.
Well, okay, that's what happened was I did this a couple of times, and then I did it. Some guy came by and I did it, and he was like, whoa. And so there was a blank card, and I drew a picture of a boat. And I said, well, and I held that one up, and she said, well, it looks like a boat. And it scared this guy so much, he just took off running.
Yeah, dang, Christin, you're like one of those kids in a horror movie that starts like talking in tongues next.
I did. Mom said I woke up talking in tongues when I was little.
Christin, stop.
I swear on everything.
No,
Yes.
that's so weird. What? Not weird. No,
It's
cool,
dude.
that's cool. It's cool weird. I've never heard of that before. How do you feel now? How do you
I found
you feel like
Pretty
eating
good.
human hearts? Huh?
I found a book that talked about kids that were like that had that ability.
Yeah.
And lots of times
My
kids will
mom
have
can
these.
do that, or my mom did that
Mhm.
when she was in high school. She told me a story where she was in her room playing with playing cards, and she was saying them while she was putting them down. When she got like halfway through the deck, she realized they were face down and she couldn't see what the numbers were, and she was turning them over after guessing what they were.
Wow.
And she got so freaked out, and she wanted to do it again, but then she couldn't after she realized she was doing it.
And that's exactly it. What had happened is the minute that she was in the zone, like Christin was in the zone, and the minute that you try to get somebody to do that, then their conscious mind takes over and goes, this can't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
That was an illusion. And so part of art, and this could kind of be where our summary of this whole thing is, where does art come from, or how do we do something that's creative and totally original? Well, the minute you try to focus on doing that, it's not going to happen.
Creative.
Like Christian's probably seen this in living, working for big companies. They used to they'll have these meetings where they bring in these people to invent things. They're going to invent, the next product. They never do that. They can never, ever. When I tell you, I want you now to go invent something or to do, you can't do it because the conscious mind is, there's so many, biases.
Built-in hurdles, built-in limitations in our brains.
And almost all inventions have come by accident, or, somebody's sleeping and, they have this dream, or
Penicillin.
Some guy had a candy bar in his pocket. He was a scientist, and they were doing something, and there was it wasn't called a microwave, but they had a microwave processor, and his candy bar melted, and he invented the microwave. I mean, this is stories like that abound. But what happens afterwards? Somebody, they write a proposal for funding and stuff, and now it's all scientific. No one ever wants to say this all came about by accident.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you money for this product that's brand new, and you just by accident you came up with it.
Humans are cool. I mean, creativity is just whether we want it or not. It's
there.
It's there. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes
it's spiritual. It's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel like it comes from, like, I don't know, like your conscious mind, like what we're talking about.
No, it's not from your conscious. That's the point. Your conscious minds will kill creativity.
I think we're just picking up on stuff from the ether. We're like, sometimes we'll get a clear vision of something and wow, that's cool. I got to draw that. Or, whoa, I hear that song. Like, yeah, I'm going to go record right now. Hurry, hand me the recording before it leaves.
Yeah.
And some people can have better control. Like, I'm not one of those people, but some people can do what they're told,
Here's the point. This is the point of our podcast too, is what you've done and what we're doing with this little podcast is you want to create an environment to be creative in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even if you've got a different job,
Safe
if you're doing
place.
something else, you want to have a place, a special place where you go to write,
Mhm.
every day, or it's at the beach or you got to have this sacred, and it's a sacred place, and it's important to have something. You don't have to use that language, but that's what it is. It's a sacred place.
Yeah.
I like that language. That's good. And that's what this,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yes,
That's what we're creating here with this little community of ours, is a safe place.
It's a safe place
To be
I love
creative.
it. That's no one's going to judge you for being because you can woo read cards,
Yeah.
Can.
You can enjoy morgues. You can sleep with your hands in the air.
By the way,
wake up talking in tongues.
Rebecca, that thing about her wanting to go into the morgue.
I wanted to see it so bad. I was such an edgy kid. I was like, this is gonna be so cool. I could tell everybody.
I have a morgue story as well. Yes. Terrifying. Go ahead, Dad.
Well, let's go with the terror. All I wanted to say was that Liam, that character that wrote that book on convergent and divergent thinkers, the guys that were the most, gals that were the most creative, they were called divergents. There was always something about death or morgues or corpses or something. Whereas the real, the scientists, the conservatives, they didn't talk about that at all. They avoid that subject because they don't understand death. It scares them. Where do we go? I don't go to heaven. We don't go anywhere. Blah, 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 blah. Whereas the creative person, they're going like, I think we end up going to Mars. And I think we go sideways on a capsule.
Yeah.
I enjoyed discussing what I think happens.
If you look at the numbers, and there really is, if we come back, if you really believe in Christianity and Jesus came back from the dead, and say we're supposed to come back from the dead at some point, we're going to probably come back as Asian, because there's way more of a population. As someone say, well, oh, you're my soulmate. Well, if that's true, your soulmate's probably from Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, China, some Asian country, because they got billions of people where we only have 300 million. So if you looked at the odds, your soulmate's probably speaks Chinese. Anyway, so that's what I think, out there.
And I mean, we all have out there. I straight up do not believe people that say, I don't have any crazy ideas. It's like, yeah, you do. You believe something weird that everybody else.
Are you dead? If you're not dead, you've thought about some weird shit at one point or
another. Exactly. Even the uncreative people, they get some of these weird ideas or weird beliefs, and it's like, where did you hear that?
It's like, keep on going, buddy. I don't know about that one. Let's put a pin in that.
I was gonna say though, because I was thinking about it while we were talking about this stuff, and I kept thinking to myself, when I first started, because it was really inspiring to meet you, Larry, when I first met you. But then at the same time, it put on all this pressure on me, and from nowhere, because you weren't putting pressure on me at all. It just. But I also started telling my friends and family, all of my relatives came over for this one thing that happened, and I told them all I wanted to do writing, and it really turned me off from being creative for a while. And I kept thinking, why? Because I'll sit and I'll think of all these things, and I'll be like, oh, I want to draw this, oh, I want to make this, and I think, oh, but I have to write it down, oh, but blah 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 blah, and I'm in the same thought, I want to be creative, and then the same thought, there's all this pressure now. And I think it comes from myself, obviously, doing that to myself, but also trying to get myself to be creative on demand, because now I want to impress you by sending you this cool new idea. So I have to get an email. Now I want to tell my relatives I'm progressing. So I have to think of something by tomorrow. I have to think of something by next week. And the second I started doing that to myself, the second I start coming away from art, because you can't be, like we were saying before, you can't be creative on demand. You can't be today I'm going to sit down and it's going to be a masterpiece. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen in any capacity. And I got really into art recently, right? I stopped getting into art when I started talking to to people about it again, and I'm like, oh my god, the same thing's happening to me. It's because now I'm comparing myself to everybody else I'm seeing. I'm thinking, oh, if I'm putting it online, they're gonna keep expecting me to make posts. I'm gonna have to do this tomorrow, and the next day. But when I was just, how it started was I was just like, I want to draw right now. I want to make something pretty, and then I made something pretty, and I didn't think about anything else. When I didn't think about anything else, it was
you're in the
beautiful.
zone.
Yeah, I was in the
creative zone.
And
What created that pressure was she
yeah.
showed me her story about these vampires, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really good. And that, so I don't want.
And then now it's in my mind. I have to finish this. I have to do this. I have to blah 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 blah.
He thinks it's good, so
I just wrote 30 pages of it out of nowhere over 3 days for fun, and now it's my 100-page essay due at the end of the year for a class. You know, in my mind, like that kind of pressure.
The
and it
fine
makes no
line.
sense because I love it, and then I'm also getting anxious by it at the same time, and it's
I'm so glad you brought that up. Kristen and I have this rule, right, about I don't tell people the stories that I'm going to do, and I don't show the painting until it's done, because you know what I worry about? Somebody says, wow, this is great, this is really amazing. You know what that does? Takes the wind out of my sails. Why finish it? You know, if
you already got the dopamine, you already had somebody say it's great, so like, if I follow through with the idea.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, art is, and again, this fits with our illusion of the conclusion. If they get it done, and everybody's going to think how great they are. John Fox told me this one story. It was fantastic. It really really puts it in place. He was really good in photography. John Fox is a therapist, and he was really great at photography, and he would be in the dark room for hours and doing all this stuff, and you know, and then one day he had his girlfriend took a bunch of his pictures and entered at some contest or something, and he didn't win. And because here's the way you describe it, you know, because every picture didn't just jump off the wall and grab you by the throat and say, my God, John, this is the most, I've never seen artwork like this. This is great. What he noticed started happening was, he kind of was losing interest. He didn't really, you know, he just had excuses that being in the dark room was kind of toxic, the chemicals. And, you know, besides, there's not, there's really not much of a market for, you know, photography. I mean, everybody, you know, in other words,
you talk yourself out of it.
You will talk yourself out of it. So you've got to protect, you've got to protect yourself.
Your creativity.
It's
easier said than done.
You know,
but it's something we'll always strive to do. We're never going to be completely confident, I don't think.
Well, she said she started to feel the stress. Well, I didn't say any, I didn't.
You did it.
Purposely.
You're perfectly polite and nice and encouraging and just like, hey, how are you today? How's your thing?
What our brain will do. And like she said, it goes back to our thing about unworthiness too. We will compare ourselves to a finished product, or I mean, Elon Musk. I mean, why? How come I didn't come up?
I was even comparing myself to you because you have a gazillion years of experience compared to me. Not calling you old,
years,
but not. I meant you have more experience than me. But I'm here thinking, like, you're not going to want to keep talking to me because you have 50 books under your belt and you're dyslexic and ADHD. So, like, I better, like, step up my game or you won't even want to be friends with me. Like, I kept sending you those emails like, oh, if you ever do... but I don't know. Like, I kept preparing myself from my head that, like, okay, even if he wants to stop talking to me, I'm still going to try to do art. I know it. I got really bad with it because I'm like, I'm not progressing.
When did this come about? When did you first start this behavior? When can you remember?
After high school, like right after high school, because like I used to be really artsy and do stuff all the time. Like I should do all the stuffed animals and all the clay stuff, and then like the second I started trying to put that out into the world, it started getting like toxic-y, because like I don't know, like I like what you said before, where you don't tell people till it's done. And that's what I kind of used to do with all my stuff. Like I'd make something
Great
cool
rule.
and then I'd show somebody and then I'd be like, yeah. But now, like telling your people your ideas before they hatch, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's really toxic. Yeah. And if somebody hates it, it's like that could be a drive to make you want to finish it.
Not finish it. Yeah.
But like you said, I love that. Like if somebody says it's really great, then it's like, of course that person's an amazing person because they're like giving you, you know, the attention and stuff, like and enjoying your idea. But it's like they've already enjoyed your idea, and if you really care about that person's opinion, like if it was your dad or your mom or you're somebody you really care about, then it's like, why would you finish what you're doing? Because the couple of people you care about already think you're awesome and already think that idea is cool. So then you don't like, it doesn't come to fruition because like then where's your drive to get that dopamine hit, to get the blah blah blah.
Here's another side of that same coin. So I've got a bunch of books. So one of my books, Recondo, has a lot of it. I don't know how many. I've got lots of comments in the comments because it's an Amazon. So they make comments. Which comments do you think I remember?
The hate comments.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those, but there's one, and it said, well, this is really kind of dumb. It seems like all he did was first he went here and then he went there and then he went somewhere else. I still remember everything that the guy said, whereas there are other ones where, this book was great and I let my son read it and, it's really showed what it was like for us there. I can barely remember those, but I can sure remember all the negative ones. And
also, it's based on real events. So what do you mean they went there and they went there? That's what you were assigned.
Well, I know. No, these comments are actually the critics. They're, critical people. You want to try to not be around those kinds of people.
Yeah.
Because they will find fault in everything,
That's why they call them trolls, right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
I think that's one of my biggest fears with doing stuff online too. Like you want to enter the public circle and you want to do stuff like what we're doing right now. Like I'm not saying I don't want to do it or I'm afraid to do it.
Yeah, but I'll go beat him up for you.
Yeah.
Me too. You tell me where they live.
Oh my God! Yeah. Don't even get Christin.
Nobody messes with my little sister. I tell you what.
Thank you guys for. I don't know, like learning to not take things people say to heart like that. I think it's really hard.
It's very hard.
Well, and you have to also examine what's their motive. What is their motive in being critical?
Yeah, if anyone says something like that, just call me or dad and we'll help cipher through their bull BS.
Yeah.
And remind you that you are awesome and screw those people. They're just jealous probably.
Yeah.
But I want to be strong though. I mean, like I saw a video the other day where it was one of those, it was like Jubilee or something. They're like kind of a big company. And they own like a YouTube channel where they do a bunch of shorts with a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd think they'd be kind of like a nameless faceless organization, but the people that work on it are like pretty sensitive when it comes to reading comments. And they had a video I watched recently called it's like responding or facing our haters. And I thought, wow, there's not to be mean to Jubilee. I mean, they'll probably never see this, but like, they were like, I was like, wow, they're so sensitive. And I was like, I don't want to turn into that by being too afraid to like go online, because they're even taking comments where people are like, I didn't personally enjoy this video because I felt like it was black and white and badly represented these two things. And the woman who was like reading the comments said like, I read this and I felt like I was about to cry. And I was like,
you are definitely a lot stronger than maybe you realize. But when I think about you, I feel like you're very confident in who you are. You know who you're not, and you know what you like, and you embrace and as far as I'm concerned, the way it's portrayed, you seem like you've got no
guys,
worries.
the people that have it the worst are the stand-up comedians.
We talked about that in our last podcast.
You hear an interview of those guys, and that stuff hurts them. When somebody will say something like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. They'll be affected by it. They end up, a lot of them end up,
quitting.
Alcoholic.
Drinking themselves to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words also hurt me. So don't be mean to me. Yeah. That was one of my favorite. I went through a phase actually where I would just say, don't be mean. But I'd say it like that. So it wasn't like, you're being a dick. I would just be like, don't be mean. But I had to verbally say it out loud instead of in my mind, taking it all on as if it was all truth. I'd snap them out of their shaming me trance by saying, don't be mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, Kristen. That's excellent. That's another thing that is a great thing to, if somebody is attacking you like that, if you can reach into their humanity, like, wow, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
So how does somebody react to that?
It snaps them right out. They're like, oh.
Because the normal reaction is, I didn't say that. I said this, in other words, you start an argument. But if you don't do that, if you just say, hey, wait a minute, that hurt my feelings. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Well, it did, you kind of, like Kristen says, let's put a pin in it. I like to say, let me put a hand grenade on it. I'll hold that for.
That's much more explosive.
Yeah, it's more explosive, and I couldn't wait to tell you that one.
I have a video
put a hand grenade
of Dad doing that skit to me. He's like, hey, come here, Kristen. And I'm like, what is in your hand? He's like, oh, it's a grenade. Don't worry. Let's pull the pen out. Then I'm going to set this.
My God.
Set it right here. If your client wants to leave, I'll send you the video. It's hilarious. It's on our YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God. That's what I would like to see that.
It's funny. If you can bring humor into anything, that's good. And it also helps snap us out of, if we do get our feelings hurt, if we can find a way to laugh about it, not to the person that's hurting us. We don't have to include them in our fun. But you call us and we'll do our best to make you laugh, and then
I love that though, because I was gonna say, like, I'm trying to figure out, I feel like before I even put myself even more out there online, I have to figure out how to handle those things appropriately so I don't become an alcoholic or don't become
that's what the stand-up comedians do.
Yeah,
they have their standard reactions for hecklers.
I like that though. Like, comedy is pure and it heals the soul and it gets people out of their, like, you make a joke out of it, like, and now nobody has to be hurt in that situation. You can turn it into.
Chris and I think we talked about this a long time ago, and it was about, how somebody will say something to you and then you walk away and then later you think, God, if I would have only said that. I took the time to write down responses, because especially when things are during political years, and because I was in the Army, they all think I'm,
like a meathead kind of thing.
Yeah. So the people will say things to me that they have no basis in reality, but I'm kind of a lightning rod, especially when we're in one of our famous wars that we like to get into. And so they'll say so. I started writing my responses back, and beforehand, kind of like a stand-up comedian does, to protect myself. Because in the moment you can't think of it,
Yeah,
and that's okay.
And
that's okay. Not everyone is supposed to have witty comments to come back right away.
Nobody did, but Robin Williams.
Well, and that comes from practice too. He probably written down a ton of things. I think the two solutions that work the best is honesty. If your feelings are being hurt, you say, don't be mean. That really hurts my feelings. Yeah. And then it'll change the energy. And then you could call us and we'll joke about it till the cows come home, adding, some insults. But the person never has to hear, like, just between us, like, it's having a good support system is also helps the battle, I guess we'll call it. Through the journey, you need to have some good compadres to have your back, even if it's behind closed doors, just to, okay, that was a good fight, but he was an idiot. He should have never made you wear those green pants. Whatever it is.
Though. I love that. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's amazing. Like, we got those 3 things: honesty, humor, and like a support group. I feel like I know we don't have any watchers, but anybody watching that's like, I know, like, I'm gonna remember that. That's amazing.
This podcast is an example of the way you should do art. I don't even think about people watching because I don't really care. I mean, it'd be nice if we actually, get people that this actually helps and works for, but my focus isn't on there. I'm more excited just to talk to you guys and to share ideas that I've had over the years that have helped me, because if we listen to our friend Jordan Peterson, being a creative person, the odds are stacked against you. He talks about there's 80 million, as an example, there's 80 million songs available for download on YouTube, but there's 70 million that have never even had one hit. So that sort of tells you it's tough out there, to trying to be an artist, to try to make it, and ask Christin. So you've got to have a way to, what? I don't care. I mean, like, the more
I did have to figure out how not to care.
You got to figure out a way.
Hand it over. Once you post it, you just let it go with the universe. Whatever's going to happen, happens. And it's only till this recent year that my songs are finally, I mean, they've been on TuneCore and distributed for so long that now they're finally like getting, oh, congratulations, your song is now part of the YouTube, whatever it is. Like, congratulations, you've hit this many hits and likes, and you've got fans all over the world. It's like tiny little hits of adrenaline when I see, oh, this person from Sweden just became your fan. It's like, cool, but my whole world doesn't depend on that.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, and I feel like that's fundamental. Like, I love that. Like,
my secret for book writing,
learning not to care. I feel like, I don't know, I'm still learning to do that. I feel like that's really fundamental to like doing art, or else you'll get destroyed, right? You'll get into
art,
alcohol, and be self-defeating, and like do all those other dark stuff.
Christin just brought up another little point, was little hits of adrenaline. Yeah. When I sit down to write a book, I've always, any of the books that have been published, I write an article or several articles. Those articles then become a book proposal. They become chapters, they become whatever. But more important, I'll write the article, get it published in a trade magazine. Not that I'm trying to make money on it, but I want the hit. I want a success. I want a little success. And guess what? Here's the big secret I'm going to tell you about publishing. Somebody already said yes. So if I've got an article about a book that I'm writing and the publisher of that article, the editor, said yes, then then the publisher, who's got to sell this idea to his, staff, his editorial board, there's already been a yes made, So I found that by accident, but almost every single book I've ever done started with an article in a trade magazine, bang, a hit of adrenaline.
And Dad and I are similar in this, and so are you now, Rebecca, is that we don't just have one thing. We have art, we have writing, we have different types of painting, sculpting, dancing, music, dancing, video skits, comedy skits. Like, we've got a ton of different lures, as Dad coined, out in the world to send us tiny little adrenaline hits to keep us going throughout this creative journey of life we're on. And that helps. Quantity in that way is a good thing, because then if you do get bored of this one thing, or you feel pressure on this, you can jump over here real quick, get your batteries recharged, and then come back. You don't have to stick to one thing for forever.
And you also are, you're aware of the odds, like Jordan Peterson was saying, your odds of getting published are like 99.99 that ain't gonna ever happen.
Yeah, you
Which
have
is
to not
true.
care. You have to really just do it because you want to do it.
Well, you can be
Yes.
aware, you can
Yeah.
care, but you have to be able to handle it like, you have to be aware that Steven Spielberg or Stephen King gets, 80% of all the money that goes into publishing goes to him and the woman that wrote Harry Potter. And then the rest of it trickles down to us, and I'm way down on the bottom, and I get the crumb. I get the little bottom, pieces of it. But the point that I wanted to make is by having, how do I want to say
I think
this?
I might know what you're saying.
But please get me out of this.
Okay, so it's like this. If that telephone, when you go to talk to that person, that one person you want the yes from, and they're not responding the way you would hope, like with the praise or yes, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that telephone is off the hook right now, so go to another telephone. Like, that's the beauty of having billions of people on the earth, is there's something for everyone. So if this publisher didn't like it, that doesn't mean it's a shit show and you shouldn't pursue it. Just means maybe your book should be published by somebody that publishes these types of books instead.
And it might not be ready. Your book might not be very good. The truth, the bottom line is, and especially in a novel, you usually have to write 2 or 3 novels before that first one ever sells, right?
Oh.
Because you're learning, you're constantly learning. And part of our podcast, what we're trying to say is, how do we get from point A to point Z? In the reality of, of Jordan Peterson saying, look, the statistics say you ain't ever going to get your book published. You're probably never going to be, make a living as like The Doors or, or The Boys Next Door, any of those things. It's probably not going to happen. But if we create the time to learn, you can sort of create your own reality that make it happen, but in a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
yeah.
No, I think that's a really, I don't know. I think that's a good way to put that. You guys have so much good information today. I don't know.
Well,
I like those podcasts.
Your
10 out of 10 best
honesty
episode.
and vulnerability brought it out. This is what this is all about.
Of course I did. I'll take credit.
You did a great job.
I am amazing.
You guys have heard about Journey, right? I mean, Journey, the rock group Journey, right? Real famous.
Yeah.
So their most famous album didn't come about until, I think it was, their, I forget what the name of the album is, but it's their biggest hits. Anyway, that was 7 albums before that one really took off and hit. Well, today, people don't have that kind of time. It's like, you got to come out with a star album like right off the bat. Nobody's gonna sign you and give you 7 albums to like
get it right.
Journey before you're gone. You're out of it.
Albums.
Yeah. So this is kind of what we're saying. You've got to create a mental game, a game that you can play while you're learning to get to the 7 albums or the 7 paintings or whatever it's going to take. That's what.
Yeah.
And that goes back to this whole illusion of the our conclusion.
Illusion of the conclusion.
Illusion of the conclusion, whatever.
Yeah.
So
the illusion is there is no conclusion.
There is no conclusion, and there is no rules. I mean, there are rules, there's principles, but there's no, you got to know enough about it to break the rules.
The one thing John Fox, it's always said to me was, it's all made up.
It's all made up, all the way down.
That's the beauty. The good news is it's all made up. So we can make it up too. They can believe what they want, and we can believe what we want, and hopefully along the way we have some fun.
I just saw something about that on a show the other day that about how it's all. I mean, if you go back, okay, so there's things that we'll take for granted. Like there's this famous picture of there's all kinds of different stories, but there's a picture of these 2 archaeologists, and they're standing next to an Aborigine, and it's like the Aborigine, the reader's invisible to this Aborigine. You know, they talk about these two guys and stuff, but that guy doesn't even exist. And it's like these cultural biases that we'll have. You know, what I'm trying to say is,
it's all made up.
It's made up, and it's more than that. It's like there's the story of these Native Americans, and there was these ships on the horizons. They couldn't see the ships. I mean, the ships were there, but the ships didn't have context. There was no context for that thing being a ship. And so it was kind of like those blurry lines that when it comes into focus, then you see the giraffe that's really behind all of that. That's kind of kind of the way life is that, yeah, there are things that are there. There's this ship out on the horizon, but if you have no context for it, in other words, the ship doesn't exist in your village, there's no such thing. You might look out there and you don't see the spacecraft that's hovering overhead because you've
never even heard of a spacecraft.
Exactly. If your idea is truly authentic and truly one of a kind, nobody's gonna know what the hell you're talking about. Show them what it is you're talking about. Like, and so that's why you can't just rely on one publisher, whoever to judge your art, because if it's truly authentic, no one will know what it is until you show them. You just gotta build it and they will come. Field of dreams, build it and they will come. You just create your heart out, and then if they like it, great. If they don't, someone else is going to eventually.
To go along with the build it will come, if you're in that cornfield, make sure you cut enough corn down to feed your family while you're waiting for them to come.
While you're waiting, it's also a great idea. Yes,
and like on originality, like some of the best stories are like retellings of like ancient stories, like in a creative new way.
Well, almost that's what the hero's journey is. I mean, the hero's journey is, you know, you could go back to the beginning of time, and one of the things that Joseph Campbell, who is a like the most famous mythologist, said, every culture has these same stories, even if they've never even had any contact with each other. They have this hero's journey story. You know,
like we just love those kinds of stories.
We love those stories, like the Bible, where Jesus dies and is resurrected. You look at, you know, Save the Cat screenplay book, or look at any of those. They talk about this whiff of death that has to be in Act 3. You know, it's almost like we demand to have the good guy, you know, the bad guy get his comeuppance in the end, and the good guy wins. But we want to make sure he doesn't get there too quick. You know, there's almost this innate thing that's inside of us that we're not even aware of, but when we see it, we know we like it.
You know? And I feel like too many people put so much pressure on like pure originality, like reinventing the wheel. Like, I don't want to use Save the Cat. I don't want to have a hero in my story. I don't want to blah 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 blah. Like,
and I don't want to ever
make it afraid of being even similar to anybody else. If you say, "Oh my god," so it's like Star Wars. Say if you were making Star Trek, and they're like, "Oh my god," so it's just like, or I guess it's opposite because Star Trek is not first, right? So they're like, "Oh, so Star Wars, so it's just like Star Trek, space, and it has star in the name." And then it's like,
come on, people.
Let that cripple you and be like, oh,
well,
they didn't let that stop them. They did not let that stop them. I'll tell you what.
But you have to not care because, sorry, not to interrupt you, Larry.
Well, I'm just going to say this is a perfect place for our ending in that painting I just did, because I copied it.
Yeah,
and I made it different.
My favorite
I copied
art.
it. And I made it different. I don't care if somebody said, "Oh, that's a copy of Picasso." Yes, it is a copy of Picasso. And I've had people. First of all, you ain't ever gonna. It's Granita, and it was in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and it's priceless. If you had $100 million, they wouldn't sell it to you. But I'll sell you the one that I copied. You can have. I'm not gonna. I want to have the original. Well, fuck you. You're not gonna ever have, you know, the multi-billions of dollars it would take to have an original like giant Picasso that's in
Yeah.
Yeah,
the museum.
never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But guess
And
what?
like that brain chemistry thing you said, we all have different brains. We're all wired
Yeah.
differently. If you've painted it, you've added your own flair to it, your own
Yeah.
hand style, your own knowledge of art.
And I'm not trying to
Cover
say
songs.
it's
Different
original.
now. It is
It's-
different.
it's
It's
an
not
original
identical,
copy.
you know?
I
Yeah,
love
it
My
makes it its
favorite
own
music
original copy.
is cover
It's your
songs.
take on that painting. And
Yeah.
that's valid. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I think farmers invalidate it because they see it and they're just like, picture A does not look like picture B.
Yes.
It looks similar, therefore copy, therefore bad. I'm going to
Yeah.
comment. I
You know that-
dislike.
You know what most people think of art is decorations. It's just
Yeah.
decorative. And that's
People that aren't-
bullshit. You know, we
They don't
don't
get gripped by it. They don't
decorative.
listen to a song and go, "Oh my god, this is like thrilling." They go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's nice."
But that's a conservatives that they don't know how to price art. They don't know the value of it. But anyway, we
It's
should
not
probably
that creative.
end this, wrap this
Yeah.
up.
Let's wrap it up. This has been such great stuff. Like,
Yeah.
well done, all of us. Let's all give ourselves a round of applause.
And
Yeah.
This was a great supportive session, and I think
Yeah. We
all-
rock, guys.
we all brought up some really good stuff.
You
And
can
let's
put
do it again.
you can put that painting on it.
Oh,
too.
show us your painting before
Yeah.
we leave. Show us your painting.
Well,
Also,
I mean, I
send me a
can't
picture of
show
it
you
so I can put it
this.
at the beginning or end of the video.
Oh,
or
okay. We're gonna
thumbnail.
put it up in the
Yeah.
video. Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
And maybe I'll send my Sims song to add underneath the video.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, so funny. Okay.
Also, Larry, you should watch the last one we did.
Okay, yeah. How do I
What's
get
that?
the last one? What do I do?
All right. Let's say goodbye and then we'll do
Bye.
that talk after. Bye, everyone. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.
Bye.
Your excuse